So what's up, you guys, and welcome to the Moon Tribe where free minds gather. So I hope I am loud because I am trying to shout as loud as possible into the microphone of this phone as much as I can because I have misplaced my headphones or I have misplaced my earphones, and I have to work with what I have because I had said that I have to do a live today, and a live I must do. Let me put on my earrings to complete the look. Give me some time. I had put them in my pocket. So I am kind of nervous about this. Let me add the brightness of my phone. I don't know why this live is making me nervous. Maybe it's because I have not been on camera for some time now. It's been almost a month since I posted anything on this channel. So forgive my voice variations. It will definitely be going up and down. But I will try to be as loud as I possibly can, because as I have said again, I have misplaced my earphones or my speaker, what I would use as my speaker. So guys, welcome to the Moon Tribe where free minds gather. And in today's video, I just want us to talk about um, religion. And today in specific, I will be going deep, or I will be diving deep into some of the chapters, or some of the books that are in the Bible. And to be specific, I will be starting with Genesis, and I will be dissecting some of these words that are written in the book of Genesis, specifically creation story. And well, yes, the story of creation up until, you know, Adam and Eve are kicked out of Eden. Um, and guys, one thing I know is that religion is a very controversial topic to talk, a very controversial subject to talk about. But as a free mind, you have to remember that you cannot be limited by constraints that society tries to put around you. You have to be free, to be a free mind and question some of the things that society has taught us. Let me try and adjust this like kidogo. This just might fall. The way I've placed this camera, oh my goodness. Okay, somebody is creeping outside here. I don't know who it is. I'm very curious. So before I was interrupted, I was saying that um, I am going to be dissecting some of the Bible verses because, as I've said again, as a free mind, you should not be afraid of questioning your beliefs and things that you have been taught, because it is your responsibility. I believe that God gives each and every one of us a brain so that we can be able to question some of the things that we experience on this earth, and not only the experiences that we go through, but also what we are taught. So, guys, I am trying to find a perfect, give me time, work with me, work with me. So, I hope I'm loud enough for this audio. I hope I am loud enough, honestly, guys, because I can't shout higher than that. So why I am doing this, why I'm going to be dissecting deeply some of the Bible verses that we commonly read and refer to on our daily basis, is because of that. We commonly refer to them on our daily basis, and some of the Bible verses have been used to keep a status quo of discrimination, among other things, in place in this beast system. And as a free mind, it is our responsibility, or it is my responsibility, to try and bring out the truth to as many people as possible. So I will get started. So I believe everybody is familiar with the story of Genesis, the accounts of creation, the first account of creation, how God forms everything by word of mouth. And the final thing that he then creates is man and woman in his own image at the same time. And then we go to, and he commands them to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish the earth and subdue it, and to have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air. And then we go to chapter 2, where he talks, where we go and talk, we get the second account of creation. And in this second account of creation, I will specifically go to verse 22, where we have the Lord God then taking the rib of Adam, of the man, and goes ahead and creates the woman, and he brings her onto the man. So, first and foremost, when I read these two accounts of creation, I will not read everything. I will not go specifically deep into the details. I will just like touch a little bit of few on them. But as I read these two accounts of creation, I have to ask myself as a free mind, why are there two accounts of creation? To be honest, why are there two accounts of creation? Which one is the correct one? Then you have to ask yourself, which account of creation is the correct one? Is it the first one where God creates man and woman in their image on the same day? Or is it the second one where supposedly God makes add this man that he has created fall asleep and then takes a rib out of him and creates a woman that he then gives unto him? Um, which account of creation are we supposed to believe? And considering that most people use this book, the Bible, as a reference book to, and this Bible verse, this account of this Bible verse of creation has been used to justify discrimination against women, giving the impression that women were created after man and giving the impression that women were created for the purpose of men. And honestly, I can't help but wonder who wrote this story, because clearly this person has an agenda. So, the other thing that comes to my mind, or the other thing that I question in this story of creation, is this account of procreation. In the first account of creation, where God is in charge of the whole thing, he creates the whole freaking thing, the man and woman at the same time. But in the second account of creation, he gives the role of creation to Adam, and he makes Adam fall asleep, and he takes his rib and tries and forms a woman supposedly. And I can't help but wonder, why does God shift this role of creation from himself to Adam? Why? And then later on in the story, you find that he shifts this role of creation again, of procreation again, from himself to Adam to Eve. And another question that comes into mind, I'm sorry if my thoughts are not aligned. I am reading from my book, and when I write these points, it's my mind is on a marathon. So sometimes I find that what I wrote, there's some gaps. And yes, so forgive me if I keep on jumping from one point to another. What matters is you understand the questions that I'm asking. So I asked the question, why does God shift the responsibility again of creation, procreation, from man to woman? So these two accounts of creation, clearly they already have weaknesses, because we have to ask the question, why why are there two accounts of creation? Why is there not one? Which one is the truth? How are we supposed to be able to discern, as people who read the Bible, that this is the truth and this is the lie? You know? And another weakness that I come and find in this creation story is the fact that we know that God is supposed to be all knowing, but clearly This all-knowing creator in the second account of creation does not sort of comprehend that Adam will be lonely and give him a mate immediately. He has to wait for Adam to express loneliness for him to create a mate for Adam. For me, that doesn't make sense, honestly, because you're supposed to be an all-knowing God. You're supposed to know that this person that you have created is gonna need companion. I mean, if the birds of the air, you created them two by two, and if you created the fish and the animals and everything else, you created them two by two, then why would there be an exception on human life and create only Adam? This is in the second account of creation. This is in the Bible. Why then do you have an exception, create Adam alone, and then later on create Eve? Doesn't make sense. Um, so I then jump again to chapter 2, verse 17, where this is in the account of second creation account, where we have Adam, where we have God supposedly commanding these two characters not to eat from the tree of knowledge, that they could consume each and every other tree that was around there other than the tree of knowledge. That is the tree of good and evil. And when I read this statement, I can't help but question and wonder, why does this creator, God, this character called God in Genesis, put that tree in in that garden, if not to tempt Adam and Eve? Honestly, I have to ask that question because if you did not want these people to consume this tree in the first place, you would have not put it there to tempt them. You would have put the tree somewhere else. And for me, that story just seems to be like, you put a tree right in between them, and then you tell them you can eat every other tree other than this one tree of knowledge. And then that makes me question, why does God not want these human beings to have knowledge? Honestly, why? Does he want like a dumb population? Who wants a dumb population? Honestly, as a creator, do you want a dumb population? And so this story, this story of creation, honestly, for me, has some holes that I have to very much poke. And then we come here and we find that serpent, the serpent, this is the snake so far, the serpent reveals to the woman that eating that fruit won't kill them, but will instead uh, make them like gods. I think I will even refer to my Bible so that I can read it clearly, where we says, this is chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. And there's the whole story, but I will go specifically to that, where the serpent says unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Now, as I've said, my Bible is quite old. I've got a very quite old Bible, so the English is sort of tough. But I repeat again, for God knows that in the day that you guys eat this tree of knowledge, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods. I hope that is clear. Then you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So that is the first implication, or the no, sorry, that is the second implication that we get, or the second confirmation that we get, that human beings are indeed walking gods on this planet Earth. Now, I'm gonna, the Bible tells us clearly that we are walking gods on this earth. Anyway, so from that account, I then come and ask myself this question. The first question that I asked, obviously, is why does God not want Adam and Eve to have knowledge? I mean, if I was a creator, I would want my creation to be a little bit smart. You know, I don't want to create a dumb creation. Who wants a dumb creation? How will they help you if your creation is dumb? So, the why God does not want humans to eat the tree of knowledge, I do not understand. Why he does not want them to discern good and evil, you know, why he wants to keep them in this cocoon of lies, I do not understand. Now, the second thing that I come and ask myself is that, or the second thing that I question is that, most of the time when we are told this story of creation, we have portrayed the serpent like a very bad character, like a demon, for tempting the woman or eating the fruit that God had forbidden these people. Okay, I should correct myself and say that God had tempted Adam and Eve to eat in the first place. He tempted them first and foremost by putting it there. So he tempts them, and then he tells them not to eat that fruit. And when he eats it, when the Satan, oh sorry, and when the serpent hears this, he approaches the woman and he tells the woman that is a lie. When you eat these fruits, you will become like God. You will be able to see good and evil. And for this, the serpent has been labeled as the devil, like, the criminal. But for me, when I think about it today, I'm just like, I think the devil is on, humanity's side of the story, because clearly serpent wants human beings to be like gods, to have discernment, or I should say consciousness, because what I get from here is that human beings were able to acquire consciousness. Because when I read deep, and what I understand is that this God, the original God, this creator God that we read in the Bible of Genesis, did not want human beings to have knowledge. But the serpent, because he did not want them to be like gods, but the serpent then comes and tells the woman that when you eat this fruit, you will become like gods. And the woman does go ahead and eats this fruit. And this is seen as disobedience. Let me even sip some water. And then this is seen as disobedience. And I can't help but wonder, why is it seen as disobedience? And clearly we see God tempting these guys in the first place, you know? And what is so wrong with wanting to become like God? After all, you are created in his image. He tells us that in chapter 1, and then comes again and tells us that he does not want us to know that we are gods. Does that God sound like a loving, affectionate God to you, honestly, if you really think about it? And then something else that I always ask myself about that story of creation is, why does the serpent tempt Eve and not Adam? Could it be that Eve was a little bit more curious than Adam? Because most pastors and most people who are in the religious sector try to use that as a weakness of the woman, because the woman was weak. She was tempted and she fell for the temptation because of her weaknesses. What weaknesses? Trying to be curious is a weakness. Wanting to be like God is a weakness. Honestly, I do not see any weakness there. Personally, for me, all I see is a person who was curious and wanted to be like God and decided to take an action. After all, there was free will, there was free will. And she took action and she ate the fruits and she got knowledge. And I move on then forward with the story. Trust me, I'm not done asking the questions, but I move on forward with the story and I go to Genesis chapter 3, verses 7. From up to verse 13, where we have the sowing of the fig leaves together after Adam and Eve have realized that man and woman have realized that they're now naked. uh, After eating the tree, after eating the fruits from the tree of knowledge, they realize that they are naked and they try to hide their nakedness. And something that my Bible says is that, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. And that is where first I catch the storyteller and I'm like, this person, this twisted storyteller, ashamed. How would these guys know what shame was when they were the only people on planet Earth? I mean, we when we read about this story, for those who take this story as a literal interpretation, when you read this story, you have to imagine that Adam and Eve, they're the only people on earth. These are the first people ever to be created. There's nobody else on this freaking earth. It's only Adam and Eve. So how would they know that being naked is a crime or like has shame associated to it? That is the first time they're seeing them. Okay, and then were they blind? Sometimes I have to ask, were they blind? Because how come this whole time they had not realized that they were naked? That is why I say that it might have been consciousness that they gained from eating the tree, from the tree of knowledge. Uh, but when they try to cover up their nakedness, what are they trying to cover up, guys? I don't understand. They have never seen anybody else covered up, or was God covered up? That is why they tried to cover themselves up. Because where did they get the concept of covering up? You have to have seen it somewhere. So unless you want to tell me that God, this God and the serpents covered up, like they wore clothes, because even in this story, the serpent had legs. And unless you want to tell me that these gods wore clothes, and then this gives God a very human like character. And the best thing about this is a revelation when you read ahead in the Bible, where you come to realize that God reveals his nature in Genesis. And he says he's just like us. He's also made of flesh. I will get there. I will get to that. But anyway, so implication of shame when they covered up with their fig leaves together to cover up nakedness. And I asked the question, how would they have known how to cover up? How would they have known shame when there was nobody else ever naked, like anybody else covered up around them? They were the first people on earth, according to the story. And then we asked, did eating the tree of knowledge mean that these guys acquired consciousness? Is that what we say, that they ate from the tree of knowledge and good and evil? Anyway, uh, and we go on ahead with the story, and we find that God questions them about the state they are in. And this is to mean that God meets them in that state of, having covered up. They feeling shame, and they don't want God to see them. Oh, we are naked now. And this this leads me to believe that then again, here we see another character being portrayed, another trait of God being portrayed, that he is actually not all knowing. This God of the Bible, let me be specific, that this God of the Bible is not all knowing, because how could he have not known that these guys would have been tempted, that these guys have covered up? Like, this story is just BS. The more I even think about it, the more I see that this still is. I won't lose focus, Ricky. I don't have, imagine Stepata earphones. Anyway, yes. So God could not predict this. I have not got. Is my audio very low? Please let me know. Is my audio extremely very low? I cannot shout beyond right now. As I'm straining very much. Anyway, so that also points out to the point that this God of the Bible is not all knowing. He could not predict the future. He could not see what his creation is about to do. And we go ahead of the story, and we find that Adam shifts the blame to Eve and says that, oh, it is not I who ate the fruit. It is, I always, I could have, just let me see here, only sent to, yes. Yes. So yes, Adam shifts the blame to Eve, and then Eve to serpent, and then God punishes them. And here is where we come and says, Ricky says, yes, he could have just punished the two of them. And I say the same. Like, this story has holes from the beginning to the end. First, this guy tempts them and then punishes them for tempting them. This story does not make sense, honestly, for me personally, because why would you should have avoided the whole situation. If you are an all-knowing God, for me, I would say avoid the whole situation. I would not put the tree of knowledge in that garden, because I would not want these people to get knowledge. Otherwise, why would I tempt them and then even go ahead and give them the information that it is there, you know and then number two, he could have foreseen that the serpent was gonna tempt the woman and done something about it. But this guy just sits and just is like, yeah, well. let just nature happen, free will. I will punish them. They will know who I am. Severely punish them. And then something else I say about this God punishing these guys. And from this story, we get that the whole of humanity was punished. Okay, not the whole of humanity. To be specific, only the woman and the serpent and the ground were punished. Man was not punished in this story. Yes, the man was never punished. So when I read about this story about God's punishing these three characters, the serpent, woman, and man, first and foremost, I ask myself, so this God is not a compassionate God. You know, why did you punish them? It's their first time on earth. Have some little compassion, you know. This what did God expect these guys to do? You tell me do not eat from the tree of knowledge, and you expect me not to gain knowledge. And then you punish me for eternity, and you punish me for generations to come, for future generations, all throughout. And then you want to tell me that God is a compassionate God. Was it not that Satan had taken over it? According to what people interpretations from the Christians who read the Bible, they say that yes, Satan sort of turned himself into the serpent. But the serpent's punishment was his legs were removed. He had to crawl on his belly. So we get the impression that snakes, because the serpent is the snake, could initially walk. But after this, they were punished and they had to crawl. Like this Toro, this person, Uga, we need to ask some questions. So there was a time that the serpent had legs, by the way. And as I've said, only three things were punished: the serpent, no legs; the woman, pain during childbirth and subservience to the man; number three, the ground is cast to be hard and to make it hard for man to toil the ground, but not Adam. Adam is not cast. You should know that. And I asked myself that now, if this is an all-knowing God that we are truly talking about, did he want the sin to play out like that? Like, did he want these people to eat from the fruit of knowledge so that he could punish them? Because that is what it seems to be happening here. When you actually read deep into this story, you find that God wanted to punish Adam and Eve. God wanted to punish his creation. And then another thing that I ask about this story is, why would God not show compassion and mercy for this one creation? This is his first creation, unless he had done other creations prior, and this was just among his many experiments that worked. Yes, that is a very true. I also agree, Ricky. It should have started as once upon a time in a distant land, an empty land. What if I even have the Bible? Once upon a time, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. It is a very beautiful storytelling. Story. It's a very interesting story. No lie, no lie, no lie, no lie. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. Another punishment. Another punishment that is given to these guys is death. I forgot to mention death. I'm just reading my notes and I'm seeing death is also another punishment that these guys were given. So that is to mean that at some point we were immortal. We did not always die. And actually, that's a lie, because nobody ever actually got to experience the immortality that we supposedly had. Because I mean, God killed off his first creation by shortening their lives to 120 years. I remember, if I remember well. So Nobody actually even got to enjoy immortality. You want to mean nobody enjoyed immortality? Nobody, imagine, nobody experienced immortality because this character called God had no forgiveness, no compassion in his heart for this creation. And it makes me wonder now, why did God create Adam and Eve? Because why is this creator very mean to his creation? Honestly, if if I how can you be mean to your kids if you are made in my image unless I hate you? You know? And that doesn't make sense, honestly. We would be, imagine we had that power, Ricky. We had that power to live up to 900 years. Okay, even more, immortality. We did not know death, but apparently nobody now knows because nobody ever experienced it. And this God will be the only person who gets to experience immortality because he even took away the tree of life so that man would not get access to the tree of life. And he even went ahead and put cherubims and a flaming sword to protect the Garden of Eden so that man would not get a hold of the tree of life. How do people worship this God? Please make it make sense. How do people worship this God of the Bible? Because honestly, for me, anybody who tells me that they are a Christian and they believe in the Bible, I think you're crazy. Every single time anybody tells me that they believe in the Bible, especially people who take this thing as a literal interpretation and they take it for word to word to be true, because there are people who believe that this Bible is freaking true, every word for it. Now, a God who does not want you to have immortality just because he is angry. Ah, he has no compassion for for his creation, his first ever creation. Something must be wrong with that God, to be honest, for me personally. And why does a God need to be worshipped? Exactly. I don't expect my children to worship me. I don't expect my children to worship me. I don't expect my children to bow down to me and perform offerings and rituals and sacrifices to me unless I have a very big ego that needs to be stroked. Why would I do that to my children? You know? So I also don't get why this God of the Bible also needs to be worshipped, Ricky, to be honest. Um, so from this account of creation, we can see clearly that this God of the Bible, something is wrong with this God of the Bible. Something is seriously wrong with this God of the Bible. Even from reading the book of um, Genesis alone, the first chapter, the first and the second and the third chapter alone, we clearly get that this God is egotistical. This God is maniacal. This God is psychotic. He has a problem with forgiving. He has a problem with humans getting knowledge. He has a problem with humans living forever. Like, I have to wonder, why did this God create humans in the first place? We have to ask ourselves such questions. And then he even goes ahead and tells them to be fruitful and to multiply. That is the other lie, but there I did not even talk about that beautiful lie, where I said that God tells them to be fruitful and multiply, to replenish the earth and subdue it. Now, suddenly imekuwa beauty YouTube budget page. I don't understand what you mean, Ricky. Imekuwa beauty YouTube page. Oh, the lip balm. Wekwenda huko Ricky, unani distract. Anyway, so as I was saying, be fruitful and multiply. So if God wants you to be fruitful and multiply, he does not want you to have knowledge as you're being fruitful and multiplying. So he wants a whole damn creation. Question mark. Replenish the earth and subdue it. Now, from what I know personally is that we are all emanating from God. So even nature is God. So why would God want you to subdue him or her in other forms, in other life forms? You should respect, not subdue. So when they say subdue, and as if human beings were given charge over other life forces on this planet, I find that to be a little bit false, because everything is God. You have to understand that We are all emanating from the same spirit. So how can you lord over your, it's like lording over yourself in another form. If I'm making sense, if I'm making sense. And well, so I think I am almost done with that segment. And I think I will just repeat myself by saying that, oh, there's another question that I forgot to ask. When we talk about pain during childbirth as punishment and subserviency to man, I have to ask, why does God choose this punishment? Because clearly we see some few instances earlier that the role of procreation was assigned to man, and then out of nowhere it is shifted to the woman. And I don't understand, but I thought only man could make life from his rib. Oh my goodness. Oh, the lies that Christianity tells us. So sweet. Because, I've always said this, and I hope this video gets to as many people as possible. But one thing I'm always saying is this: if life emanated from Adam, if Adam was the source of life, I dare anybody who believes that they came from a rib to create from a rib, from a man's rib. Go and find a man and create life. I dare you. If you believe that you came from a rib, especially if you are a woman, and if you believe, and I'm not trying to mock you, no, I'm actually being very sincere and being very honest. Just I'm saying it in a funny way because for me it's funny that people assigned this role of creation of or procreator to man, and clearly we see throughout nature, throughout everything, that woman is the creator, is the one who gives birth. Life emanates from woman. So I dare anybody who says that life came from Adam's rib and they believe that they came from the rib of Adam to go and find a man, any man, because every man comes from Adam, and take out his rib and create another human being that is alive and is not a clone. You know, simple. I think this is simple mathematics, and this is simple understanding to see that somebody clearly wanted to take the role of creation away from women and assign it to men. And clearly we can, and nature shows us time and time and time and time again that woman is where life comes from. And actually, the Bible contradicts itself by saying in Genesis chapter 3, verses 20, when Adam names this woman that God created him for, this is Eve, he calls this woman Eve because she was the mother of all living. Now, if she was the mother of all living, then where did Adam come from? Isn't he a living being? So that is to mean he also came from Eve. She is the mother. How can help me explain how can this guy, and this person tells that we are molded from clay, is what this guy is what this theorist tries to tell us, that we are molded from clay. And then from this clay God takes a rib of this man, and that is how he forms woman, and then the role of procreation is taken to woman. Does not make sense, honestly. I believe from the beginning, from the get-go, that the life source has been a woman, and that everybody who is on this planet Earth comes from a woman. Life comes from a woman. If anybody tries to argue with me, please, please, please do as I have said. I request you. So from this story of from this account of creation, from these two accounts of creation, we can clearly see contradiction. First and foremost, contradiction, very big contradictions from the first account of creation and the second account of creation. You have to ask yourself, first and foremost, why are there two accounts of creation? Why not one? If it's truth, if that is the truth and the sole truth, why must there be two? The second thing that we come to realize from this story is that God demonstrates anger, lack of compassion. Clearly, this God of the Bible, or this Genesis Bible God here, is not all knowing, and he's either cunning and totally a dictator, because, as I've said, and I repeat myself again, this guy does not want human beings to gain knowledge. And you have to ask yourself, why does this guy not want humans to have knowledge? And we have to also ask ourselves, from this account of creation, is the serpent really as bad as society or the church tries to paint this character called the serpent? Because we can see that the serpent is the only person who is trying to enlighten this human population. So that makes me even question and wonder, does the serpent love uh, humanity more than the God who created humanity in this story of the Bible? Because the serpent wants humans to be godlike, to have knowledge, to know the difference between good and evil. And yes, so for me, these two accounts of creation, that is what I get. And when I go deeper into the story, because clearly I can see my notes have gone deeper into the story, and I go into Genesis chapter 3, this is when God is kicking Adam and Eve out of the this is when God is kicking Adam and Eve out of the garden and putting the flaming swords and the cherubims. And I say it again that God is mean. Clearly, we can see that the God of the Bible is a mean God who has no compassion, who has no forgiveness traits in it. And I can't also help but wonder, why does God not want human beings to live forever? Because I am your creation. Why would you not want me to live forever? You know, and then I ask again I go back and ask again the question, what then was the purpose of God creating Adam and Eve if he did not want these people to have knowledge and to live forever? Because clearly this person had a plan for Adam and Eve, and the serpent, according to this story, seemed to interrupt that plan by giving these two human beings knowledge. And to that point again, I ask, if this creator was so powerful, why wouldn't he just have ended that creation, Adam and Eve, and started afresh again? It would have been so easy. I mean, he did it the first time. Why not do it the second time? He put the one thing he didn't want them to touch close. That is what I've been saying, Ricky. That's what I've been saying. Like, God tempted these guys. God actually wanted these guys to eat from the tree of knowledge. Because why would he put it there in that garden? You know? And from these stories of creation, something else that we come to learn is that humans are equal to God. I think clearly that is this story of Genesis, this story of creation points out to us millions and billions and billions, okay, not millions, that is an exaggeration, has given us instances, sure instances, where God has said that we are like human, we are like him, we're like God. And clearly, if we are like God, then it means that pastors are irrelevant, bishops are irrelevant, the Pope is irrelevant. Practically, religion is irrelevant, because who are you worshiping if you are God? Who else are you worshiping? You have to ask yourself that question. Clearly, the Bible is telling you that you are God, but you are worshiping something else external to you. So, who are you worshiping? Who are you worshiping? Honestly, I think most people don't ask themselves that question. Oh, no, 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 the Bible is not. One thing we have to understand is that the Bible is a very good storybook, an entertaining storybook, because this cannot be taken as the literal word of God. And first, something else we have to ask our question is this story of Genesis. Yeah, you have to ask yourself the question: who even tells this story? Who wrote this story? Who was there to write down these things that were happening in the beginning? Oh, God said. When God was saying, this person who was writing, where were they? Alikuwa amesimama wapi when God said, let there be light? So that this person can come and tell us that God said, let there be light. That God created Adam and then created Eve. Where was this person? I thought there was nobody else created in this earth. So this person writing this story, this person writing, telling us what happened, who is it? Who are they? Why don't they mention themselves in the Bible and say they are Joshua or something? Those Hebrew names. Author was created before Adam and Eve, so that I can be able to write the story correctly and divine, you know, from the beginning how time was. So that is why I say when as a free mind you have to question religion. You have to question religion, especially this called Christianity religion. I'm of the Christian religion. Okay, I was of the Christian religion, and that is why I have to seriously introspect this thing called Christianity. Because I have to ask myself, who is the author of this story called Genesis? You know, who writes this story? Why did they not include themselves in the Bible and say that I was pre-created by God to or I should guess that maybe the person who wrote this story of Genesis was taken from journals of Adam and Eve. I don't know. So you have to ask your question. You have to ask this serious question that who is the author of this story and why does he write this story and what is the agenda of this story? What agenda does this person have when they're telling us this story? Because clearly, if this person told this story and put this story in a book that they knew would impact millions, would control millions, what was their agenda? You have to ask yourself that question. What was the agenda of this person who wrote this book? Because you can clearly see biases in the book, you can see biases in the story. First bias is, why do we have two accounts of creation? You have to ask yourself that. Why are there two accounts of creation? There should only be one. Because if that is true, truth is absolute. There should not be truth A, truth B. It's truth A or truth zero. Let's say truth zero. There's no truth negative one, truth positive one. And the second bias that I come across when I read this story is where we use where this the person, the author of the story, chooses to use the he pronoun to represent God. And clearly you see that is a biasness towards the mm, male or towards men, because who told this character that God was a he? Why did you assign a specific gender to something that you had never seen before? So, what was the agenda of this person when they assigned uh, a creator, a spirit? Hmm? Because there's somewhere in Genesis where they say that God's spirit. So if it's spirit, how can you tell the gender of the spirit? Honestly, you have to ask yourself that question. So how does God become a he? And clearly we see it repeated, he. So why don't call it it? It requested, the spirit requested. I'ma use something that is, gender neutral. And another biasness we see is in the story where when this after these guys have sinned, eating the fruits, the forbidden fruit called the fruit of knowledge, the fruit of good and evil. After these guys have eaten these fruits and God then goes ahead and punishes them, we see biasness again in the punishment, because God does not punish Adam. He does not punish Adam. Read your Bible very well. God does not punish Adam. God punishes the serpent by taking away the serpent's legs. He punishes the woman by increasing her pain during childbirth and subserviency to the man. Such crap. And we see again that the ground, not Adam, the ground is punished to be hard and infertile, so that Adam will suffer when tilling the ground. And the the punishment that applies to both again Adam and woman is death, because they're told they will no longer be able to be immortal when they are kicked out of Eden. So we clearly see that this person who was telling this story has a biasness towards the male. He kind of has a male preference, clearly, because he has assigned the character God a he, character, a he pronoun. Number two, he has not punished, the he character God has not punished the he character Adam. So is God already playing favorites? Is God playing favorites in just the beginning of the creation of the story? And why is God playing favorites if we are all emanating from the same source? If he created us all equal and we are both made from his image, that is man and woman both made from his image, then why do we see favoritism? And that is why I say again, this author who uses the pronoun he to refer to this character called God, I say has biases towards the male preference, because if man and woman, are both made from the image of God, then that is to imply that God is probably an hermaphrodite. God has both male and female organs. That is the only way that you could be able to create two separate things from the same thing, if that same thing existed in both states in the same body. So clearly, we have the impression that God eats them, they, is a hermaphrodite. I'm not freaking joking. Because we are clearly told that God creates both man and woman in his image. Both man and woman, he created them. So, yeah. And I guess at the end of the story, we have to ask our question, the serious question. This sweater is bugging me. And at the end of the story, we have to ask the serious question too: is the devil really the villain of this story? Because we try to make the serpent like the villain, not only the serpent, but the serpent and the woman, the villain of this story. And for me, clearly, I see the villain of this story is God, personally, from the point of view that I'm looking at it from, because this is God's creation, first and foremost. We are talking of an all knowing God, so He should have predicted these situations would have happened. Uh, let's say if He was not such an all knowing God, then He would not have tempted His creation by putting the tree in the middle of the garden and telling them not to eat this tree. You know, He would have just not put the tree in the Garden of Eden. Simple. No sin would have been committed. So this guy clearly wanted to tempt um, human beings. There is an agenda here that we're not being told. So for me, when I read and when I deeply ask questions, especially for people who take this interpretation of the Bible, this account of creation to be the truth, because there are people who take this account of creation to be the truth and the absolute truth, unfortunately for them. And I hope they find my video so that they can question their beliefs. So for me, when I read this book, when these two accounts of creation, I am left with more questions than answers. And for me, that shows me that then this is not truth, because as I have said again, truth is absolute. There cannot be truth A, truth B. It's absolute. It's truth, you know? So, and truth should not leave you with questions. It should give you an answer, a full, complete answer. So clearly, this account of creation leaves us with more questions than answers. And so for me, I sort of I sort of say that this theory of creation of the Bible should be done away with. It actually should stop being taught in schools. It should be, people should even throw it away from their minds and be like, because at the end of the day, you have to question, is this really our true creator? Is this really how human beings were created? under the duress of sin, coming here to form, and the first action they do is sin against God. Is this how human beings were created, really? Is this the character of our creator? To be honest, is this the character of a true God, of an all knowing, all loving, all these characters that we assign God with? Because to God we assign all the good characters, to the devil we assign all the bad characters. And when we actually read this book, one has to see that the God of the Bible is then the devil. Or wouldn't you guys agree that people are worshiping the devil out there? You people think you're worshiping God, but you people are worshiping the devil. Because why does this God have animosity towards his own creation? Honestly, help me understand. Why not want them to have knowledge and eternal life? You know, for me, the character God, this character God in this story of Genesis is not the true embodiment of a true divine creator. Honestly, for me, I would say this is an imposter who is trying to act as God. Maybe he knew some formula of how to form human life, like an advanced being who knew how to create life and tried to create life and was able to create Adam and Eve. And for some reason, Adam and Eve were able to chanuka and become like them, because this is not the character of a true divine creator, if you honestly think about it. And if you have been led to believe that this account of creation is true, then you have to ask yourself, who created you? Who created you? You know? And for me, I reject this theory. I completely reject this Bible account of creation. I reject it and I throw it in the dustbin and I burn it. And I know that this theory of creation comes from older stories from the Sumerian clay tablets. Hopefully, I will do a video about explaining where this story of creation comes from. Hopefully. But yes, to me, this story of creation of the Bible is null and void. And the person who was attempting to tell this story, well, I have to give them credit because they have been able to fool millions of people. And not only have they been able to fool millions of people for a short period of time, but for a very, very long period of time, these people, the person who told this story, has been able to fool humanity for a very long time. So I have to give credit where it's due. It was a good story, but fortunately for you, there are people who will question your story, who will look for facts in your story, who will look for holes in your story, like me here. And I will tell people that your story is a lie, and that anybody who relies on that story to explain their origin is relying on lies, to be honest. And and then I also say that it has too many gaps. It leaves so many questions unanswered. And clearly, as I've said again, that cannot be truth. Truth is absolute. And what else do I say at the end of this video is that I think it's time for us as humanity to come up with a new narrative, of our origin, because clearly that one is outdated, has been outdated by time, by facts. So it is time us as humanity to come up with a new story, and hopefully this time we come up with a good story, and that story that we come up with, let it have truth in it, so that the future generations are given truth, so that we stop giving the future generation lies. We were fed these lies. I think it's only fair for us to stop spreading the lies that we were not created like that. That is not our true account of creation. As I've said, that story is done, outdated, thrown to the dustbin. It is time for us to come up with a new story. It is time for us to investigate our true origins, because let me tell you something. There is somebody, or there is this system I call it the system, has been created or has been fashioned in such a way that it seems impossible to get the answers to these questions that we ask, because so many people seek to understand who they are. So many people seek to understand and they want to know God, but they don't know. There's something that people always seek, a fulfillment, inward fulfillment. And that is why you find people looking to religion, looking to politics, looking to marriage, looking to all these external factors around us to help us answer or to feel that quest that we feel inside. That there's a feeling, a longing, a desire that human beings have. And because of this desire, this longing to understand ourselves, to understand who are we, why are we here, who created us, why did this person create us, somebody went ahead and took advantage of our curiosity and fed us lies, to be honest. And it is because of these lies that I believe that you see the confusion that you see all around humanity, because people do not understand. How come that people tell me that God loves me, but when you read the Bible, you find a God that is not loving? You find a God full of hate, full of envy, full of jealousy. How then do you tell people that God loves you? And then that this God changes character from the New Testament to the Old Testament, and suddenly he's a newborn being. So for me, I believe that this system has been created that so that we are not able to answer these questions, because when we are able to answer these questions, we will then stop depending on the system to give us the answers to these questions, and then the system will become obsolete, unfortunately for them. As I have said, the Pope is obsolete, bishops are obsolete. Anybody who is working in the religious sector is practically in the business of lies. Anybody who is teaching you to look for anything outside of yourself is in the business of lies. They're lying to you. And can you imagine the whole religious faction falling down when you start telling people that, yo, yo, these guys are lying to you? And it's because there's people that who have held on, or who have held so tightly onto this system, that they do not want it to fall down. So they will keep feeding you with lies, and we will keep feeding our children lies, and then the lies keep on generation to generation to generation to generation, just freaking lies. And we have to ask ourselves, to what end, guys? To what end? To what end do we lie to ourselves and to our children and to every other person who is on planet Earth, who seems to rely on the Bible for answers? And I guess that is the biggest challenge we have today as free minds, as the free minds in the scene. Sisi ndio tumetokelezea Ricky. Free minds in the scene, as the free minds in the scene, in the current scene, because we're the players right now. We're the players right now. And as the current players, we have to ask ourselves, do we really want to play with these same old freaking rules that have been put up there by people we don't know, and we don't know their agenda as to why they put up these rules? Or are we going to change them, and rewrite our stories and tell new stories? So because truth is out there, I believe truth is out there. And so that's it, guys, from me. Oh my goodness. I've talked so much, but I've achieved my goal. I wanted to do a 1 hour live, and I have achieved my goal. 1 hour of talking. Whew, my throat is freaking dry, but I enjoy spreading truth. I enjoy challenging religion. This is something that I really enjoy, honestly, as you can tell. As I enjoy doing this, so I do not mind it. And as usual, guys, you are free here in the Moon Tribe to ask questions. Feel free to question and challenge your beliefs. Feel free, feel free, feel free. This is where free minds gather. As I said again, this is where free minds gather. And yeah, guys, have a lovely evening. Bye bye.